You're welcome back to the Pulse on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. Now, let's look now in America. Uncle Sam's place where we're learning the pundits have called it the most fiercely contested election in recent U.S. history. The battle for the White House between Democratic candidates Senator Hillary Clinton and Republican candidate Donald Trump has been the subject of media frenzy for over a year. And now, with a week to go till the election, all eyes are on the most influential swing state in America, Iowa. Due to America's electoral college system, analysts can already map out where each party has a stronghold, with the red zone representing the Republican Party and blue representing the Democrats. However, swing states are so named because they swing back and forth between parties depending on the election. Simply put, they are states which are relatively evenly divided between Democrats and Republicans. Depending on who you ask there are anyone from 8 to 15 competitive states this time around. These states include Florida, Ohio, Nevada, and North Carolina. The only state to have reliably backed a presidential candidate since 1964 is Ohio. Now, in the aftermath of the renewed investigations into Senator Clinton's emails, polls have shown that Republican candidate Donald Trump is narrowing the gap between them. Could you believe it? Well, will it be enough to tip the scales in his favor in the swing states like Iowa, for instance? Political editor Evans Mensah is, not here in Accra, but in Iowa, the battleground state, and as part of a special selected African press corps invited to cover the U.S. elections. And he's joining me for an update via Skype now. Meanwhile, in the studio to help us with that conversation will be political media analyst Dr. H. Sikanko. Evans will join us via Skype in just a moment. But let me begin with Dr. Sikanko. He's been following American elections for a very long time and knows the ins and outs. Thank you, sir, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure as always to have you here.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the first thing we need to talk about is the narrowing of the gap between Clinton and Trump. What is accounting for this?
Obviously, you know, anytime the name of emails are mentioned, Senator or Secretary Clinton standing in the polls go down. There's a precipitous decline, you know, and so it's obvious, you know, that the fact that the emails are back, you know, into the campaign rhetoric or into the campaign narrative is bad news for Secretary Clinton. The issue of the email points to the fact that people don't trust her. People think that she's trying to hide something. They think she's secretive. And the fact that she used private email servers as Secretary of State doesn't play to her strengths. It plays to her weaknesses. And so obviously, if the emails are back into the political narrative, that is bad news for Secretary Clinton.
Okay, but is it just bad news, or it begins to change her fortunes in this election?
It does, you know, because here's the point. Up until the FBI announced that they were going to that they had found a new treasure trove of emails, up until that point, Secretary Clinton was leading by as much as 11 points in some polls, for others 8 points, others 6, but maybe the lowest was 5. She was clearly ahead, and she was coasting to a win, even if not the popular win. At least she was leading in the electoral colleges. There were states which were traditionally red, which were beginning to turn blue for the Democrats. A newspaper in Arizona which had backed a Republican candidate throughout the 100-year history of the newspaper for the first time backed Secretary Clinton. And that was because of the problems that Donald Trump was facing in terms of the tips, in terms of his rhetoric, and in terms of his performance in the debate. So up until James Comey, the FBI director, announced that they found new emails, it was advantage Clinton. Now the emails have come back. The emails, immediately people hear about the emails. It frames Secretary Clinton as somebody who is secretive. And I think because of that, Donald Trump seems to be closing the gap. And so this is really a rush to the end. You know, it's going to be heated all the way to D-Day.
Okay. Let me now bring in Evans Mensah. He is in Iowa as we speak, joining us now via Skype. Evans, a very good afternoon to you. As I can see already, you must be having fun in Iowa, aren't you?
Well, you can call it that. I mean, if the weather is what you're using to judge and to say it's fun, yeah, it's fun today. I mean, the past 3 days has been pretty cold and humid. Today has been pretty sunny. You can see the way I'm dressed. It's pretty warm here. So he says it's beautiful so far.
Okay. Now, you're in Iowa, a battleground state heading into this election. What's been the biggest talking point? Because I was just discussing with Dr. Sikanko how it's beginning to look as though we were talking about Clinton cruising to victory. Now the narrative has changed. what's the local conversation in such a battleground state about this email saga and how it's feeding into the gap closing between the two candidates?
It's an important question, and then Eche will tell you that in the U.S., all elections are local. The elections are held on a state-by-state basis, and so it's pretty local. And last night, I filed in a report. I don't know if you play that. I spoke to a local journalist who articulated what the issues are as far as Iowa is concerned. And Iowa is a battleground state. And so you listen to the local journalists talk to you about how they believe Iowa, in the grand scheme of things with the other battleground states, can switch the elections in favor of Trump or in favor of Madam Clinton. Now, it's interesting that just last Friday, both Clinton and Trump were both in this great state of Iowa campaigning. Why? Because they know Iowa is a battleground state. It's a swing state. Democrats and Republicans are evenly matched in terms of their numbers. And so if you come locally, the talk is about how each party can, take the bull by the horns here in Iowa and use that, I guess, to run the rest of the way and win. But also the conversation has doubled back to what you guys were just talking about in the studio about the bombshell dropped by Mr. Comey last Friday about the reopening of the emails. People are talking about that in this state. And this is a state that has been won by Barack Obama in the past, and Eche will confirm that. And they were hoping that it would be easy again for Hillary to win in 2016. But of course, in the last few days, it's been tough for her. And there's a lot of talk about that in this state. And hopefully they still believe that somehow they can pull it off, because it's been won by Barack Obama. They think that could help going into the elections next week Tuesday.
So in terms of the pendulum, Evans, never mind the mails coming in, it's still in Iowa. Is that what you're saying?
You want to ask that question again? I think I lost.
I'm saying that based on what you just told us about the conversations in Iowa, am I to understand then that in terms of it being a swing state and the pendulum swinging, is now swung full circle to the Democrats, never mind the emails?
Well, that's difficult to say. The thing about Iowa is you cannot predict anything. But what is showing in the polls since last Friday is that Donald Trump is closing the gap in the battleground states. And Iowa is a battleground state. If you look at nationally in the battleground states across the country, and Iowa is one of them, Donald Trump was one time behind by 10 percentage points. He's now closed the gap in most of these battleground states to 1 percentage point, and that is very important. And so, yes, as far as the road to the White House is concerned, the road to the 270 electoral college votes are concerned, and Iowa will contribute a huge number, I think 6 electoral college votes to that whole park, and that is important. In terms of that, Hillary is still ahead here, and he has a clearer path to victory than Donald Trump, but we still have a week to go, so anything can happen in politics.
It could be anyone's game. Okay. Now, Doc is with us. I'm sure Doc will have some questions for you, especially with when things are playing out in politics. Doc?
Yeah. Hi, Evans.
Hello, Eche.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I hope you are enjoying the weather out there in Iowa. What have you been hearing on? What have you been hearing on the ground so far? I know that Iowa is traditionally a very, you said something very true, that Iowa is a very difficult to predict state. But at the same time, it is a state that I think that by default is conservative. And Hillary Clinton is not that well liked in Iowa. Let's face it.
True.
Yeah, she's not that well liked in Iowa. So my thing is that I have a feeling that in Iowa, at least Trump is ahead. Iowa is one of the few swing states that Trump actually has an advantage, So my question to you is, are you beginning to have any sense that the state is warming up towards Hillary, or you still think that it is a conservative state? I mean, can you paint the picture to us what the conversations are on the streets and the issues that they are concerned about as well?
Yeah, it doubles back, and again, because you're an international journalist in a foreign country, you only have to rely on what the locals tell you. And since yesterday, I've been having conversations with local journalists, and I've been based with the Burlington Hawkeye, the oldest newspaper in this part of town. And I spoke to the journalists, and everybody tell me that, yes, the point you're making is absolutely true, that this is one of the battleground states that Trump can feel most confident about. But then again, knowing what the recent history has suggested, and with all that has happened, they still believe that, again, don't forget that this year's election is not like any other we've had in the past. And they still believe that because Iowa, and the thing about Iowa, and you know this, the swing states are states that anchor themselves mostly based on the issues. And so whoever wins the argument on the key issues of healthcare, you know that's playing up very strongly in the U.S. elections. And one of the things I need to tell you is that since I've been here, I have observed that the Obamacare is having a challenge because the premiums have gone up in the last 1 week or so. And that is playing up in Iowa quite strongly. And I understand that Donald Trump and his vice, Pence, are going to be holding a rally close by, one of the states close by, and they're going to be addressing that. They're going to make that an issue. They want to put that back into the conversation about how the premiums are going up because of the Obamacare. And that is going to play up in Iowa again. And so if that issue becomes central again, never mind there's also the email one going along, then that plays into Trump's hand. And that is what I'm hearing on the ground. And so, yes, it's pretty difficult to predict, but Trump is most confident in this battleground state than others because of the challenges that in the last final week the Democrats are having.
Okay, interesting the things that feed into local politics in that state of Iowa. But Evans, just before I let you go, I need to ask this. What's the sense you get from, especially, and I need to ask this for my Ghanaian bias, for Ghanaians in that state, what's your thinking here? More for Hillary or more for Trump?
I must say that I've just arranged, and H.A. Sikanku helped me with this, gave me a series of contacts to reach out to. And so on Thursday and Friday in the coming weekend, I'm going to be traveling from Burlington. I'm going to be moving to Iowa State and then Des Moines, the city center, the capital. And then I'll be speaking directly to a bit more many Ghanaians. But on the phone, having conversations with them, there is a sense that those who have votes, the Ghanaians who are settled in Iowa, and they have votes and they'll be voting this year, they want to vote for Hillary, not Trump, okay. Because of the key question of immigration. I hear them talk a lot about the fear of tightening the noose if Donald Trump wins elections. They are unable then to bring in their families. Some of them still have their wives, their husbands back home. They want to bring in and settle them. They will not have that anymore. I spoke to one businessman, Felix Anneman, who I'll be speaking to later on, do a feature about. He's a businessman back in Iowa State. And he's telling me it's going to affect business also because he's a local. And remember, most of the guys who support Trump, Hillary, describe them as they belong to this basket of deplorables. And one of the reason why she did that was a lot of them are seen as racist. I mean, they are not the kind of, all welcoming supporters. And therefore, that again plays into the mindset that most Ghanaians have here. And that's why for them, they would like to vote for a Hillary than they vote for a Trump. And of course, I mean, we'll see a bit more of that play out in the coming days once I get to speak to. I've organized them together. I'll be going there to speak to them a bit more. And I'm pretty sure viewers back home will watch that and make their own
Thank you.
Yes.
I'll have you enjoy the sunshine. Head of our political desk, you can tell that he's having fun, but it's okay. We grant you that. Enjoy.
And Evans, make sure you visit some really good places in Iowa like Olive Garden before you come back.
Okay, that's a tipper for you. Thank you, Evans. That'll be it for our check on elections in America. And remember, all throughout, from now until November 8th, when the votes are cast in the United States, we'll bring you updates, daily updates. Evans Mensah is with that African Press Corps will bring us coverage that you need to know here on your election headquarters. Dr. Sikanku, as we wrap up with you today, a week to go, gap narrowing. Will it be a surprise on November 8th?
I think the possibility that it will be is now higher than before. at the point, the chances of Trump pulling this up was like 10%. Now it's come up to 24%. And if it increases this way within a week, it could come up to 30, 40%. And we never know what will happen on election day. So it's
still looking neck and neck. But thank you for coming today, Doc.
Always
pleasure as always having you in the studio talking about American politics. We'll pause now, digest what we just got from Iowa and also from Dr. Sikanko. And we'll bring you sports here. Gary Osman will join us with the very latest. Stay with us.